Today, we're taking a look at even more of the most insane and strange things that people have found on Google Maps. From the hilarious to the strange to the downright terrifying. We'll start off with the lighter stuff, the sort of thing that makes you chuckle, but won't haunt your nightmares or make you question the very makeup of reality. We'll get to that a little later. When you're driving home from work, the one thing you never expect to see is a horse-drawn carriage right out of a Disney movie. But commuters on Uxbridge Road in England saw just that. A fairy tale carriage complete with two white horses pulling it. A surprising magical sight, though probably a massive pain to drive behind. What kind of insurance do you need for a pumpkin carriage anyway? Moving on. Speaking of unusual forms of transportation, Google Street View users in Cottesloe, Western Australia got a peek at a man riding his old-school penny farthing bicycle. It's already a bit outside the norm, but even crazier was his passenger sitting in a cart on the back. At first glimpse, it appears to be a penguin or a platypus going along for the ride. On closer inspection, it's probably just some sort of stuffed toy, but it's nice to dream of a world where penguins are just out here enjoying a lovely afternoon cycling trip. As long as the Google Street View cars have been patrolling the streets and taking pictures, people have been pulling pranks on them and dressing up in wild outfits to pose for the camera. One of the more inexplicable shots that likely resulted from these shenanigans came from Oscarsborg, Norway, where two men were captured on Google Street View wearing orange jumpsuits that looked like something straight out of Squid Game. One raises his fists ready for combat while the other lifts an improvised weapon. Maybe a golf club? Sure, it might have just been two friends trying to make the internet wonder what the heck was going on, but maybe Google Street View just happened to capture an all-out brawl between two disgruntled hazmat workers. Maybe all that radiation went to their heads. Do you hate having to take time out of your day to go to the dentist for a checkup? Don't you just wish you could have your dental appointment on the go, like the busy little hustler you are? Well, have we got news for you. Introducing the mobile dentist office. Now the dentist can come to you. Just kidding. This image from Google Street View is likely just a dentist chair being delivered to an office in Dhaka. But there is something a little unsettling about seeing the dentist chair out in the wild, tiny sink and all. It's just not right. Like seeing a dog doing taxes. Everyone knows dogs love tax evasion. Speaking of things you don't see every day, Google Street View in Victoria, British Columbia snapped a picture of a person wearing a rubber horse mask enjoying a little snack by the side of the road. Just sitting there, eating a banana at a table with a tablecloth and a little bouquet of flowers, and of course, their trusty lawn flamingo by their side. It's just an ordinary meal. Nothing to see here. Move along, people. If that wasn't weird enough for you, then how about this infamous giant chicken spotted on a lawn in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? If you're hoping for an explanation, you're out of luck. This enormous plucked chicken might have just been a sculpture, or some kind of elaborate hoax, or a giant's dinner that fell from a beanstalk before they could finish cooking it. Whatever it was, the chicken was there for but a brief, glorious moment before disappearing from the lawn where it was first spotted. Farewell, giant chicken. We'll always remember you. While some of the things spotted on Google Maps are on the sillier side, sometimes it gets a lot more bizarre. For example, you might see a naked guy climbing out of the trunk of a car. Did that example sound a bit too specific? Well, that's because it happened. Google Street View captured an image of an anonymous man climbing out of an open car trunk without a stitch of clothing on. How'd he get in there? Whose car is that? What happened to his clothes? Is he, good? Like, is he doing okay? These are just a few questions raised by this image, questions that may never be answered. Perhaps it was some kind of bizarre viral marketing for the movie Uncut Gems. Let us know your theories on Naked Trunk Guy down in the comments. In May 2020, during the COVID-19 stay-at-home orders, some people found themselves with a lot of extra time on their hands. One of the ways to pass that time was by scrolling through Google Maps and exploring the world outside. Several users were terrified when they spotted images of what appeared to be hundreds and hundreds of people standing in an empty field in Finland, perfectly still, all facing the same direction. At second glance, however, it became clear that these weren't people, they were scarecrows. Not much less scary, honestly. But what were the scarecrows doing there? Staging an uprising against humanity? Taking revenge for centuries of getting pecked at by birds? Not quite. This army of wooden figures dressed in human clothes were an art installation by the artist Ray Lokela, entitled The Silent People. The installation is actually decades old. First put together back in 1988 in Lassila, a neighborhood in Helsinki. It was moved to a few different locations over the years before finally settling into a field outside of Suomussalmi in 1994, where it remains to this day. The Suomussalmi Youth Workshop takes care of all the faceless wooden inhabitants, changing their clothes twice a year using donated garments. But the mystery of the silent people isn't entirely solved. Artist Reo Kela refuses to explain the meaning behind his unsettling work, leaving art appreciators to debate and discuss amongst themselves for decades. Whatever it means, the silent people makes for a genuinely eerie sight, one that's bound to haunt at least a few nightmares. Google Street View caught more fake people popping up in unexpected places when it captured this mannequin pool party outside a farm in Harcourt, Ontario. Featuring a couple of pool noodles, a mannequin lounging on a beach chair, two of them swimming in an above-ground pool, and a fourth showing off the catch of the day. It's just a bit of summertime plastic family fun. Sorry to intrude. Please carry on. Some of the amazing sights on Google Maps are man-made, but some of them are purely nature's doing. While exploring Google Earth in 2005, a woman spotted a face in the clay of the Badlands near Medicine Hat in Alberta, Canada. The face resembles a person standing in profile, wearing some sort of headdress. In spite of its distinctly human appearance, it's actually a completely naturally occurring geomorphological feature. It was created through the gradual erosion of the clay-rich soil by a combination of wind and water. In 2006, CBC Radio 1 took suggestions on what to name the figure and selected the Badlands Guardian. It's still there, watching over the Badlands, and will likely stay there for a very long time. We'd also like to submit for the record that Badlands Guardian would be a pretty sick name for a rock band, just saying. Some land formations watch over us in peaceful solemnity, and others are a lot more forward with their affections. Ah, we love you too, lake. Say, if we told you you had a beautiful body of water, would you hold it against us? Just kidding. You can't respond. You're a lake. This beautiful scenery that looks like Mother Nature asking if you'd be her Valentine is actually a 300-foot man-made lake in Columbia Station, Ohio. Still, it's pretty striking to look at and definitely the sort of place for a romantic boat ride if that's your kind of thing. If you use Google Earth to explore Australia's Homebush Bay, you might actually catch a glimpse of the floating forest. Homebush Bay was once a bustling trading port, but as the waters were contaminated with toxic waste and the area became more commercial and residential, the ships were decommissioned and left behind in the water. One of those abandoned ships, the rusted SSA Field, is home to a thriving forest of mangrove trees. There are so many trees growing on the abandoned watercraft that it now looks more like a forest than a ship from above. An eerie but beautiful sight. Natural life sprouting from the graveyard of industry. Sometimes nature makes its mark on mankind, and other times mankind leaves an imprint on nature, in this case a fingerprint. This giant fingerprint spotted on Google Earth in Brighton and Hove in the United Kingdom is actually a maze that happens to resemble a fingerprint when viewed from above, but maybe someone should run it through the police database just in case there's a spree criminal out there with really big hands. How far would you go to boost tourism in your town? How about building an ad that you can see from an airplane flying overhead? That's not a maze, it's the Chinese village of Shilin Shui that actually created a giant QR code in an attempt to attract more visitors to the area. The code was sculpted from 130,000 Chinese juniper trees, measuring 227 meters along each side. If you manage to get high enough into the air to scan the code, it'll take you to the village's tourism account on WeChat. Shame, really, they missed the opportunity for the world's most high-effort Rick Roll. In 2013, Google Maps users discovered that something was very, very wrong with the town of New Baltimore, New York. Whenever anyone looked at images of the town, they were melted and distorted, like something out of Silent Hill. Apparently, it was just some sort of glitch with the program because soon after it was identified, the images of the town returned to normal. But that is one freaky glitch. Does anyone else see Pyramid Head hiding in there somewhere? The town of New Baltimore wound up being absolutely fine, but Google Street View also captured images of a city that is decidedly not fine. Pripyat, Ukraine, the site of the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster, has been abandoned for decades due to the high levels of radiation that linger in the area. But as it turns out, Google sent their Street View car to the ghost town in 2015, allowing users to explore the area remotely. So if you want to check out Chernobyl but don't have the money or the bravery or the radiation tolerance to go on one of the rare in-person tours of the area, you can explore the unsettling images of the disaster zone from the comfort of your own home. There are worse ways to kill a lazy Sunday. It wouldn't be a Google Maps roundup without some crop circles. Google Earth has provided alien enthusiasts and skeptics alike with the opportunity to scope out crop circles all around the world. One particularly famous location for crop circles is Amesbury in Salisbury, UK, where several Google users have spotted these shapes. Their exact origins are unknown, though everyone's got a theory. Maybe it's a hoax, maybe it's aliens, maybe it's some secret third thing that no one's thought of yet. Who knows? Much like they did with Pripyat and Chernobyl, Google Street View has captured images of other spooky abandoned places. One of the creepiest has to be the abandoned mental asylum in Lier, Norway. Constructed in 1926, the asylum was officially shut down in 1986 and left to rot. Now the place stands there in disrepair, haunted by the ghosts of the unsavory history of mental health care, including leftover equipment used for lobotomies. Also, it might just be haunted by regular actual ghosts too, who knows? Personally, this is one thing we'd prefer to explore from a safe distance with Google Street View, rather than actually visiting. Life at Infographics Channel HQ is stressful enough without a bunch of Norwegian asylum ghosts trying to give us a lobotomy in the break room. One of the most insane things ever spotted on Google Street View isn't all that wild at first glance. It just looks like an ordinary man standing on a street corner outside of a fruit vendor in Spain. But the man captured in that image is no ordinary man. His name is Gioacchino Gamino, and he is a convicted murderer and gangster, considered one of Italy's most wanted mobsters. Sicilian police had tracked Gamino's location to Spain, but were working to pinpoint his exact location when they spotted him in a lucky, or unlucky for Gamino's perspective, Street View shot. They were able to narrow down his location to the town of Galapagar near Madrid. Gamino had been in hiding for 20 years, and he was shocked to be discovered. When he was arrested, he reportedly exclaimed, "How did you find me? I haven't even called my family for 10 years." The answer was, it seems, through police work. Oh, and a little help from Google Maps. The police used Google Maps to track down a wanted man, but in 2021, a TikTok user browsing Google Earth spotted something extremely creepy while scrolling over Nevada. In the ghost town of Rhyolite, he could see a group of cloaked figures wearing all white. When he clicked on the Street View, he could see a deserted house and another man clad in all white holding a bicycle. He was shaken by the discovery, and so was the internet, until other TikTok users came to the rescue and explained what he was seeing. As it turns out, these images were not of some sort of nefarious bike-sacrificing desert cult. They were actually an outdoor exhibition by Belgian artist Albert Schickalsky and are intended to be a modern representation of the Last Supper. The hooded figure with the bike? Just another sculpture. Turns out there are a lot more creepy sculptures in empty places than you might think. With its bird's-eye view of the world, Google Earth captured a lot of images of enormous structures that are easy to see from the sky. This includes a lot of large-scale art pieces like the giant pink rabbit referenced in our previous video on the subject. Sometimes the art's beautiful or silly, and sometimes it's a little bit sinister. Google Earth photographed a massive sculpture in Edinburgh, Scotland, a stone statue of a man lying in the grass, legs sprayed wide and one arm over his head. His limbs appeared to be severed, with some pieces separate from the rest of his body. A bit of an odd sight, sure, but what's the big deal? Well, it turns out that the artist behind it is a convicted murderer. Jimmy Boyle, incarcerated in 1967 for the murder of Babs Rooney, designed the 100-foot stone statue. Named Gulliver the Gentle Giant, or the Gentle Giant of Craig Miller, it was unveiled in 1976. As off-putting as the knowledge of the statue's origins might be at first, it actually brought a lot of good to many people's lives. After its unveiling, it became a favorite place for children in the area to play. Sadly, that caused it to fall apart over the years, and it was eventually removed in 2011. Still, it did a lot of good for the area, and Jimmy Boyle himself found art to be a positive influence on his life. Following his release from prison in 1980, he continued making art and writing books, as well as starting a project dedicated to keeping vulnerable young adults off of drugs. So it really was a friendly giant after all. Google has captured a lot of images of the aftermath of massive disasters, but on May 28, 2008, a Google satellite snapped a picture of one that was actively in progress. Alma College, a girls' private school in Ontario, Canada, caught fire and was quickly engulfed in flames. The damage was devastating, and the building was almost completely burned to the ground. At first, the fire was believed to be an accident, as the building was old and contained several known fire hazards. However, an investigation by the local fire department later determined that it was arson, and that the fire had originated from the building's rear stairwell. 2 local teenage boys were arrested shortly after the investigation and charged with arson, then later found guilty and sentenced to 240 hours of community service. The satellite image immortalized the blaze at its height, so bright it could be seen from space. There are a lot of unsettling things you can see on Google Maps and Google Earth, some that might never be explained. But in one particular case, Google Maps helped solve a long-buried mystery. On August 28, 2019, an internet user was using Google Earth to take a look at their town of Wellington, Florida. While doing so, they noticed something peculiar: a car submerged in a pond. The image was a bit blurry, but it was definitely there. They reached out to local authorities who searched the pond, and they pulled a vehicle from the water and found skeletal remains inside. When examined, they were found to be a match to William Moult, a Florida man who went missing in 1997 on the way home from a nightclub. An investigation was conducted at the time, but the trail quickly went cold. It seemed as if there would never be a definitive answer to the question of what happened to William Moult, but thanks to the eagle-eyed Google user, the case was closed. It just took a while. By the way, according to the Charlie Project, an online database of cold cases in the United States, the vehicle had been visible on Google Earth satellite photos since 2007, but no one noticed it for over a decade. There are plenty of hoaxes out there, plenty of bizarre internet posts that turn out to have perfectly ordinary, even boring explanations, but every once in a while there really is more to the story. That's not to say that every odd image pulled off of Google Maps will wind up closing a decades-old cold case, but sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. And when you're capturing images of the entire world, you're bound to run into some truly strange sights. Now watch Insane and Strange Things Found on Google Maps, or watch this video instead.